So it is September 29th. I'm in the forested portion of the Peace Chapel area. One of the forested portions, there's many. I'm just going to be looking at some trees today and talking about them, and maybe also hopefully finding some other cool things along the way. So yeah, let's get started. So the first tree I have here is, I believe, a flowering dogwood. Well, the reason why I think it's the flowering dogwood is just based off the bark. Whenever I see kind of this, I don't know what you consider it, kind of blocky, usually I'm like, oh, this is a flowering dogwood. Now, I don't know if there's a different type of dogwood that has similar bark, but that's the one that I know is the flowering dogwood. It's also usually kind of a smaller tree that I see kind of in the understory, and also see a lot of people like cultivating it and planting it in their backyard because it is known for having those quote-unquote flowers. They're actually, the flower portion is made up of bracts, which are just kind of these specialized leaves that kind of look like flower petals, and the little flowers are actually kind of all little tiny things inside the actual bract, but the idea is still there. I mean, it's not really a big deal. So let me try and find a leaf of this dogwood. Unfortunately, it's still kind of holding on to all of its leaves, and they're too far up for me to really grab one, but I'll try and find one on the ground. Here's another flowering dogwood with that really, I was gonna say buttony, but that's not right. What's the word that I was using earlier? Blocky, that's the word. Blocky bark. But the leaves are still on this one as well. I'm gonna try and find a smaller one somewhere. I think I'm gonna come back to the dogwood. What I'm looking at here is something, this bark to me seems like shagbark hickory bark, like it's very shaggy. But I can't tell. I'm trying to look if there's any hickory nuts on the ground to see if it's a hickory tree or if it's something else. Well, as I was looking for hickory nuts, I found this acorn on the ground with this kind of very large bowl-shaped top to it, and kind of a very large nut. Acorn, I should say, not really nut, or it is a nut, but acorn specifically. And also, oh my god, look, it has a hole in it. And that's even, I'll insert a picture of an acorn I took, a picture I took of an acorn literally right around here not too long ago. But it has a little insect on it, kind of caught in the act, so to speak, and that insect is the thin-nosed curculio. Anyway, but it's a type of weevil, I think, that, or maybe it's not a weevil, but it's a type of bug that has like a very long nose that can bore holes into acorns, and then it lays its eggs inside the acorn, which is kind of fun. So if you see these holes, it's probably from some sort of bug that laid eggs in there or something like that. But anyway, back to the tree. This is most definitely from a chestnut oak. And I was looking at the ground. I wasn't really seeing any chestnut oak leaves. I was seeing kind of these white oak leaves mostly. Definitely not seeing any hickory leaves. Well, maybe actually a couple. But then I was like, I looked right up and I was like, oh, I'm right next to a chestnut oak tree. So chestnut oaks, they're in the beech family with the oaks, specifically in the white oak family, because they've got lobed leaves, which I'll try and find one, but like I said, they're like, these are, I think, red oak leaves. Definitely are not chestnut oak leaves. Chestnut oak leaves look like chestnut leaves, like chestnut tree leaves, which is kind of confusing. Yes, you can see all these little, I think these are chestnut oak saplings. So you can kind of see the vibe that they're giving off based off just like their little saplings. They're like lobed, but they're not as deeply lobed as the white oaks are. And they also have very different acorns. Like, these acorns are, in my opinion, they're usually a lot bigger. And then the tops of the acorns are also like a lot bigger and kind of shallow. Not shallow, but like more circular, more rounded. I'm going to try and find a white oak acorn. Yeah, I think this is some sort of gall or something like that. Anywho, got distracted. But okay, this one I think this is a white oak acorn, or it's a red oak acorn, but it's definitely not a chestnut oak acorn. Can't tell because there's a mix of leaves down here, so I don't know which specific oak tree it came from. So yeah, apparently these are from galls. These are from oak, I think they're called oak apple galls. And they're from gall wasps. Don't know much more about them, but I'll maybe insert something more about the oak apple galls. You can almost kind of see, is that the right there. It's like a dark green. It's kind of staring at you right now, but it's like a little dark green. I guess wasp. Maybe that was like the egg layer, I don't know, there you can kind of see it, but I think it's dead now. So back to the actual tree. So this chestnut oak has these, it's kind of dark. It's furrowed, deep furrows. It's got these ridges and these valleys, and it's very sturdy. Can't like push off the ridges at all. They don't really come off. The valleys in this one are like really red compared to the ridges, which are kind of a dark gray, especially if you compare it to like a white oak. It's much darker. I guess you can't really see on camera, but it's a much darker like color on the ridges than the white oaks. I can't really see any of the buds because it's so big. I guess maybe some of these small ones you could see some buds, but they are smaller, so I don't really know if the buds are like to scale or what. Yeah, that's kind of what the bud looks like. I guess it's kind of brownish. And I just broke that off. Oops. Brownish, very pointed, very, ow, kind of hurts. Oh, just destroying this chestnut oak little seedling. But yeah, that's the chestnut oak. The male flowers will be kind of these dangling catkin looking things, but obviously I'm not going to be seeing any of those today in September. So yeah, here we've got like a younger chestnut oak and an older chestnut oak, and so this chestnut oak's bark looks very similar to the other one we just looked at. But the younger chestnut oak, this one is kind of white in color. I don't know if that's normal or what or not, but you can really see the chestnut oak like buds here. Oh, there's a spider on me. Oops. Whenever a spider on me, I always find it funny how they like have to like climb over the hair, my arm hairs. Anyway, sorry about that. But you can see the buds a little bit better on This one, yeah, they don't look anything like the sapling buds. They're way shorter and smaller and brown. Still, some of them are kind of spiky. But the bark is different here between the younger one and the older one. We have what seems to be another maybe gall on this chestnut oak. Not sure if it's a different type or what. There's one here. There's one here. There are some holes in it that would suggest something got in there. There's a couple other on this chestnut oak. But good news, I actually found a flowering dogwood that is kind of lower to the ground. So we can actually see some of its leaves. And its bud. Look at that bud. I mean, that terminal bud just screams, I'm gonna be a flower one day. Look at that bud. So these leaves, I also think, when you pair them with the bark, are very distinctive. Kind of a mix of all, like, mostly orange and yellow. The veins of the flowering dogwood leaf are very, they don't go to the edge of the leaf really, they go all kind of point towards the tip of the leaf. And then the edges are, well, I mean, I'd consider them to be smooth. I don't know if they actually, like, technically are smooth, but there's really not any toothed kind of margin to them. They're just smooth. I mean, I kind of like these leaves. They're, in my head, they're kind of pretty. And paired with that blocky bark is very distinctive. Got a very obvious terminal bud, and then I'm even seeing on them some of those fruits, those red fruits. So those are the red fruits of the flowering dogwood. Not sure what eats those fruits, or if I could eat the fruit. Not that I want to, but maybe, you know. But those are, you know, pretty fruit as well. So they've got pretty leaves, pretty bark, pretty flowers. I mean, that's what they're named after, is their flowers. Quote unquote, they're actually bracts, but they do have flowers inside the bracts. In general, they tend to prefer acidic soil, so maybe the soil up here is a little bit acidic. I don't always see them. They've got a very irregular looking habit, I think is the word, but kind of an irregular form to them. And they, of course, they're understory and kind of these smaller trees. I realize I abandoned that potential shagbark hickory. So, sorry about that. Maybe some other time I'll look at hickories, or the shagbark hickory in particular, but for now I've abandoned it. Didn't get around to looking at as many trees as I wanted, but I am on a time crunch, so we fit these in when we can. Thanks for joining me, and goodbye.